This gift guide is for people who are way too into football. I'm talking like sicko degenerate status, okay? The kind of people who will watch every single Thursday night game from start to finish, no matter how terrible it is. Basically, the people that are exactly like me. So if that describes you, welcome, you're among friends. Links for everything that you see here today are, of course, down in the description below, but we're actually going to be starting with something that you can't really buy off of Amazon or any other online store. Not that it's free. I mean, it cost me about $50 to do in 20 minutes in Photoshop. But I think my favorite gift on this list is a custom playbook. This is a PDF of a real playbook from the late 90s, early 2000s era Buccaneers defenses, the Tony Dungy, Monty Kiffin era. This is their actual playbook. And I had it bound, and I used Photoshop to create a cover page for my brother-in-law, who's a huge Bucs fan. And if you go on a website called footballxos.com or footballxos.com, I'm not really sure how they choose to pronounce it, but if you're typing it in for a URL, it's literally footballxos.com. On that website are a lot of really cool historical playbooks, going back to the 70s and 80s. There's the Bill Walsh offenses, there's like mid 90s Shanahan Broncos offenses. I think there's a Legion of Boom era Seahawks playbook on there. Just a whole bunch of different playbooks that, if you know a fan of one of those legendary teams, you could just grab the PDF for free from that website, design a cover page for it, have it bound at FedEx, which is what I did. It cost me $54. And there you go. You have a really cool, unique gift for a hardcore football fan that you can't really get anywhere else. And at least in my case, I know that Tyler's going to love this. He might actually watch this video and get spoiled for what his gift is, but I still think he's going to love it anyway. And I think that doing that and kind of going the extra mile to make a gift like that would be very well appreciated for a lot of football fans out there. And on that note, by the way, for really hardcore football fans that love X's and O's and strategy and all that kind of stuff, if you are going to be getting them one of these custom playbooks, but they're not ready to understand them, or maybe they're going to need help understanding what the hell is actually in these things, all of these books here to my right will help them with that. When people ask me where I've learned football over the years so that I can then use that knowledge to make the videos that you see on this channel, books like these are a pretty big piece of that puzzle. Of course, I always maintain that just grinding tape and charting film for yourself and watching coaching clinics is always the best thing you can possibly do. But books from guys like Cody Alexander or Cameron Soren or Bobby Peters help to add context to everything that you're charting and everything that you're seeing in these coaching clinics. The Pass Coverage Glossary, for instance, by Cameron Soren is something that I reference constantly, and it's been an invaluable resource for me. Pretty much everything that Cody Alexander's ever written has been a great resource for me, especially anything that has to do with like the match quarters world of defense. I mean, he literally runs a site called Match Quarters, so that makes sense. But he also wrote a book on, the 4-2-5 hybrid defense, which is stellar, and I love reading that. And then on the offensive side of things, Bobby Peters does fantastic work where he puts out multiple books every single year where he breaks down every single play that a particular offense ran over the course of an entire season, and he will break them down by concept and situation, and it's a great way to get a holistic look at an entire offense over the course of a year. I would also highly recommend the work of Dan Casey, who has literally written books about just one individual offensive concept like mesh or counter. And if you really want to understand everything that there is to know about one play and all the different ways that it's run and all the different adjustments and permutations, Dan Casey's your guy. So if you are going to go the route of printing off a playbook and giving that as a gift, I would also consider, giving one of these books that can help give context to that playbook. All right, next we're going to talk clothing. And I know it's super easy to go to like NFLshop.com or your official team store or something like that and get a jersey or a hat. But I want to make you aware of a site called Homage. And full disclosure, they are a partner of our podcast channel, the Bootleg Football Podcast. But I wanted to promote them on here too, because this is the kind of stuff that Homage has. It's very niche. I don't even think a lot of you will even know what the hell this is. But the NFL before the season put out this video where a lot of the rookie class had to paint their own team's logos like from memory, and they all came out terrible, but they're hilarious and kind of adorable. This was Tank Bigsby's attempt at painting the Jags logo. And even though I'm a Texans fan, I thought it was so awesome that they put those on shirts that I just had to buy one. But they also have a bunch of other super niche NFL merch tie-ins. Like if you're a Deadhead, and I'm talking about like Grateful Dead, if you love the Grateful Dead, they have the license to that too. And so they kind of combined it with their NFL license to make Grateful Dead NFL merch. Again, hyper niche stuff. They have NFL Blitz tie-ins. They have Tecmo Bowl tie-ins. They have these really cool kind of like team crest crew necks that I've gotten a couple of for the Lions and the Dolphins. Big fan of those. They're also very, very comfortable. And they even have a whole bunch of other stuff that isn't like explicitly NFL merch that they still have the license to. Like they have Legends of the Hidden Temple merch. So of course I had to get a Legends of the Hidden Temple crew neck because how could I possibly resist? I'm a millennial in my 30s, desperate to go back to the 90s where it's simpler times with less obligations and stress. I should probably talk to somebody about that. But I had to get the crew neck, okay? I wear it all the time. Again, very comfortable. So yeah, check out Homage. Go through the entire catalog, see if there's anything that you like for you or somebody else that you're buying gifts for this holiday season. Also, shameless plug, I couldn't not bring this up. We also entered into an agreement with Homage for our podcast, the Bootleg Football Podcast. They're going to be carrying bootleg merch starting, I think, on Cyber Monday. At least I'm pretty sure it's Cyber Monday. But either way, if you use the link in the description below, whether you buy bootleg merch or you buy your team merch or you buy Legends of the Hidden Temple crew neck, if you use the link down in the description below, we get a cut of it. So directly benefits the show. And speaking of the podcast, by the way, if you guys are a regular podcast watcher over on the Bootleg channel, then you have seen these in my ear constantly. Like pretty much every single episode that I film out here with EJ, these are in my ear. These are the Raycon Everyday Wireless Earbuds, and I know that earbuds are a very popular gift this time of year. I want to put my stamp of approval on these, and it's not just because they sponsored this episode, which they did, but like proof is in the pudding. These are in my ear every single week, and I have had these for over 2 years at this point. Like these are not the only earbuds that I own, but they are the only ones that I use, and I use them, A, because they're extremely reliable, and I've never even gotten close to them running out of battery. So for my particular line of work where I'm, using them for long stretches at a time if I'm streaming or if I'm doing podcasts, the reliability and durability of these has been excellent. And not to mention the sound quality is great, and they have noise isolation, and they're very comfortable in my ear as well. So they check a lot of boxes. And I don't use brands or endorse products that I don't actively use and actively enjoy. And I think the proof is in the pudding that you see these on my ear every single week when I do the podcast. And if you do happen to be in the market for another premium earbud, either for yourself or for somebody else this holiday season, I do know that there are Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales going on over on the Raycon website. And on that site, you can look for deals on the everyday earbuds, the everyday headphones, plus their new line of Raycon Home and Raycon PowerTech products. My personal link is buyraycon.com/Brett, and those sales are up to 50% off. I believe they end November 27th. So you have a little bit of time, but not that much time. I would just recommend that if you're interested in something like this, you head over to the link in the description and you see what kind of sales are going on right now. Thank you to Raycon for sponsoring this week's show. And with that, I want to talk about what to get yourself this holiday season. I'm sure that if you've spent any amount of time on NFL YouTube, you've seen the work of JT O'Sullivan over on the QB School, and I'm sure that if you're really into like film Twitter or just kind of the coaching scene in general, you've also probably heard of Coach Vass. I am here to tell you wholeheartedly that as your gift to yourself this holiday season, you should join their Patreons. And I say this as somebody who has my own Patreon, okay? Like I have multiple tiers. I have, a patron-only Q&A every single week. I have a patron-only Discord. Like I'll release episodes early there. And I'm still telling you, even with the benefits that I provide, if you can only afford one, you would be fucking insane to support mine over supporting theirs. They are so much better at this than me. They provide so much value to their patrons. I really hope I can one day provide as much value to my patrons as they provide to theirs. They are the pinnacle of this industry to me. And I'm trying to properly convey like how smart they are and how good they are at this. They have more football knowledge in their pinkies than I have in my entire body, okay? And I consider myself extraordinarily lucky to have, you know, the amount of support that I have and to have the subscriber count and the views and everything like that. They're so much better than me. And they need to have everything that I have and more. So I am actively telling you, if you can only afford one, go to theirs. Don't go to mine. Like, do yourself a favor, give yourself a gift. They are incredible. Now, that brings us to our final gift of the evening, whiskey. Because of course it is. Like, it's me. Of course this was going to be on here. Like, I'm not going to do a gift guide and not include whiskey, okay? But key distinction, I did order these in price from lowest to highest, and there is a fairly high range here. I'm not somebody who believes that you have to spend a certain amount in order to gift a good whiskey. I think good whiskey is good whiskey, regardless of type, whether it's bourbon, rye, Scotch, Irish, Japanese, like whatever. I don't necessarily think that there's a minimum you have to spend. I just think you have to give a good bottle of whiskey. And so I have one that's as low as $40 and I have one that's as high as $150 to $200. It really just depends on what you feel like spending, but I would equally recommend all of these for various reasons. We're going to start on the quote-unquote low end, which is Eagle Rare, and that's about $40 a bottle. And I'm a big believer that Eagle Rare is like the pinnacle of the bourbon world, in the sense that you get all the classic bourbon notes, vanilla, molasses, oak, everything that you expect from a bourbon, and you don't have to spend a crazy amount of money. Like, it's the most bourbon-y bourbon you can ever possibly get, and it's not going to break the bank. That's why I love it. It is a bourbon lover's bourbon through and through, and if you're buying for somebody who loves bourbon, if they see Eagle Rare, they're going to freak out. They're going to love it. Next up, for people who really love ryes, I chose the Woodinville rye, which is about $10 more expensive. It's roughly $50 a bottle. And ryes are really hard to do well, but Woodinville does an excellent job with theirs. It has all the kind of classic baking spice type notes that you expect from a rye. It is a little bit hot, not gonna lie. Like, it's not for the faint of heart, but it's also delicious. And for people who really love ryes that will punch you in the face, the Woodinville rye is for them. Beyond that, for $10 more at about $60 a bottle on average, we have the Balcones True Blue Cask Strength. And I recently got introduced to this at my absolute favorite whiskey bar in LA. It's called 7 Grand. If you live anywhere in Southern California, whether it's LA County or Orange County, highly recommend you go up to 7 Grand. It's awesome. They have a massive selection, and pretty much anything you can think of, they have. And one of the things that they have that I instantly fell in love with is this Balcones True Blue Cask Strength. And I want to emphasize that cask strength means that it's 120 proof, okay? It is 59.9% alcohol, and it will tear your fucking face off if you're not ready for it, okay? This is not for the faint of heart. It is hot as hell. But if you really love proofy whiskeys, this one's for you. And speaking of acquired tastes, by the way, next up we have Lagavulin 16, which is an Islay Scotch, and even a lot of whiskey fans who love bourbon or love ryes or love Irishes would say that they don't like Islay Scotches because they're very smoky, they're very aggressive, and some would say that they just want to punch you just for the sake of punching you. Again, I happen to be into that. Now, before you go out and spend $90 on this bottle, I do want to emphasize that you ask the person that you're going to gift it to if they even like Islays. If they say yes, then absolutely get it, because to me, Lagavulin 16 is the pinnacle of the Islay style. I think it's perfectly balanced and the best Islay that you can get at any price point. But if they don't like Islays, or they've never had an Islay, then I would probably stay far, far away from this and get them something else. Now, last on this slate, we're going to Japan for Yamazaki 12. And full disclosure, you're either getting this for somebody who is a collector and is super into whiskey, or you're getting it for somebody who you love a lot and you're willing to spend a lot of money on, because this bottle at minimum is probably going to run you $150. I've seen it go for $200 or $250. It's not cheap, okay? Like, this is an expensive ass gift. But Yamazaki 12 is phenomenal. It's one of the best whiskeys that I've ever had in my life, and it's worth every single penny, but you gotta be willing to spend a lot of pennies on this. So if you are trying to find inspiration for a gift at this price point for somebody who you know is a whiskey lover, if they see this bottle when they unwrap that gift, they will lose their mind. I can almost guarantee you that. All right, that'll wrap it up for me tonight. Hopefully this video helped somebody out there in their holiday shopping journey, even if it's for themselves. For most of you, it's probably for yourselves, but still, hopefully this helps some of you. I really do appreciate you guys watching to the end. Next up, we have our Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Jamar Chase video that I've been working on for a couple weeks. I wouldn't say it's the start of my draft season content, but it's kind of the start of my draft season content. I know a lot of you have been waiting patiently for that, and I couldn't wait all the way until February to talk about Marvin Jr. because he is that damn good. So that should be coming out soon, and yeah, until then, later.